This is the Brave New Coin Crypto Conversation, hosted by Andy Pickering.
Hi everyone, Andy Pickering here. I'm your host and welcome to the Crypto Conversation, a Brave New Coin podcast where we talk to the people building the future in the Bitcoin, blockchain and cryptocurrency space. Hello everyone, Andy Pickering here, and we have a very good show for you today. But before we get into it, need to shout out our new sponsor, Nexo. Yes indeed, are you ready to grow your wealth with the world's leading digital assets institution, Nexo? Well, you should be ready, because you can earn up to 12% on your digital assets with Nexo's high yield savings account. That's right. So treat yourself, treat your crypto, and treat your fiat with the industry's best crypto and fiat services, which include compounding interest paid out daily. There are 18 available cryptocurrencies, including Bitcoin, Ethereum, Litecoin, various stablecoins, and many more. And 3 fiat currencies are accepted: the euro, the pound, and USD. And Nexo has up to $375 million worth of insurance across all custodial assets. Top-ups and withdrawals are available at any time, and there are 0 fees for using the Nexo Earn Suite. So, are you ready to start earning? Of course you are. Simply go to nexo.io, and of course that is spelt NEXO.io. And now it's on with the show. My guest today is Aaron McDonald. Aaron is the CEO of Centrality, a tech ventures ecosystem building out the infrastructure for the emerging decentralized internet. Very exciting. Hey, welcome to the show, Aaron.
Hey, Andy. Thanks for having me on.
Hey, it is a pleasure. And well, it actually is a real pleasure, Aaron, because you're a New Zealander, I believe. You're based in Auckland, as am I. So it's always a rare and cool, exciting opportunity when we get to have on a guest from the small but growing blockchain ecosystem here in Auckland. So I think to begin with, though, look, let's have a bit of background from your good self. Please introduce yourself and just give us a little bit of your personal story.
Yeah, sure thing, Andy. And you're right, it's great to be talking to a fellow Kiwi. We're a small nation, but we've got some great thinkers and some awesome businesses down here doing some pretty world-beating things across the board, but even in the decentralized system space. My background is in technology. I've been in technology for more than 20 years now, and I started in engineering roles in the telco industry. So literally at the ground level, I was digging trenches to lay cables and calling in dirty crawl spaces, and then eventually worked my way up into senior network engineering and architect roles, and got a little bit kind of bored of fixing other people's problems and went into product land and jumped into business management, a little bit of time in corporate venture, and then out into startup world. So I've been in this gig for 5 years now, and interested in blockchain and crypto a little bit earlier than that.
Yeah, interesting. So, yeah, I think it's fascinating that you have this kind of IT, telecom background, and then that in some respects that is a natural progression into a blockchain. Then, so you said you've been into blockchain for some time by the sound of it. So, just before we get into the nitty gritty nuts and bolts of Centrality, what was your sort of first encounters with blockchain, and what were your initial thoughts?
Yeah, you're right, though, that coming from a telco background is kind of an interesting place to come from, because blockchains really are networks. And so having a network engineering background and network economics background has really helped me to kind of understand what the limitations are and how you can kind of look at the space as it scales and what are the viable paths and which ones aren't. My introduction to the space was kind of more as personal curiosity, because I'm a nerd. And so I'm always kind of been into nerdy things and I think I might have found out initially through some friends on World of Warcraft, I guess, as many
Yes.
early blockchain adopters have.
Indeed.
And then it got kind of a bit more serious for me when a friend of mine and I were having some dinner, and he's a Swiss German guy, but his mother is Tongan. He spends a lot of time down here, and we were talking about technology, and he started having a good deep conversation about blockchain technology and smart contracts. And I was like, how the hell do you know so much about this? No one knows about this stuff. It wasn't mainstream at all. And you're a lawyer from Switzerland. And he was like, well, my firm's helped come up with the legal structure for the Ethereum Foundation, and was working on a bunch of the other kind of early OG projects, Tezos and Cardano. And so I was like, Drew introduced me to these people. I got really excited after talking to some of the crew up in Zug, and I decided that that's where my future was.
Fantastic. Well, what I'd like to do today, Aaron, is learn a little bit more about what you guys are doing at Centrality, and then also CENNZ, I think is how you say it, right? Which is kind of part of the Centrality network. So, but let's start off with Centrality itself. So, if you just tell us what Centrality is and what the kind of, I guess, the vision statement is.
Yeah, cool. So Centrality's got three facets to it. So we have a ventures business that is designed to go out there and kind of grow and onboard and incubate technology companies into this decentralized systems ecosystem. And we've got quite a broad mandate there, but our kind of thesis starting out was broken into three bits, really. One was if decentralization truly is a goal, then the key ingredient to making that truly successful is getting user adoption at the edge. We can't have a truly decentralized world where we put new middlemen in the infrastructure, and in order to get mass adoption, you had to create really great user experiences. People don't take the time to understand the technology underneath, and as good as the be your own bank meme is, most people are just trying to get to work, get home, have a nice weekend with their family. Managing a bank is the last thing on their minds. And so how do you kind of get true decentralized adoption and make that easy for consumers was our mission. And that's what Centrality's really set up to do, is to try and solve both the edge application user experience problems as well as some of the protocol user experience problems to make that happen. And so, inside of that, you've got three components: the venture bit, you've got the networks bit, and then we have an enterprise bit that helps larger organizations start to understand and adopt the technology.
Brilliant. Very, very nice, Aaron. And look, I couldn't help but notice, and I guess you guys have had this as, I don't know if you would call it an unofficial slogan, or I think you know what I'm going to say. But so, and listeners, please do excuse my language. But Aaron, what do you mean when you say that? I guess Centrality, one of your goals is very simply to unfuck the world.
And it is a very stated objective. We're not shy about it, and I think what that means for us is, if you look at the way things are going out there, there's a massive problem looming, maybe two massive problems, but they're quite interrelated. There's enormously growing inequality, and a lot of that comes down to unequal access. Another part of it comes down to our, I think the best way to sum it up is losing our grip on true democracy. And so the first bit about unequal access is really around access to finance and capital and all the things that can help lift people up and get them out of the mode they're in, and create that more equal playing field for people to create wealth from. And so that's a kind of core problem that we want to unfuck. And the other bit is around how do we get people to have more control of their data, so that they can have a bigger influence in the future over the way that decisions are made. And if you think about how things have played out recently in the political sphere, having access to data is a way to shape the way that democracy works. And, you know, for a long time, we've been giving that precious asset up to organizations who don't necessarily have the public good in their minds. And that has led to outcomes which have definitely not been good for society in general. So as we become a more digital society, having access and control of our data is actually a fundamental right that leads to good democracy and good governance and good outcomes and good equality. So when we talk about unfuck the world, it's how do we increase access to financial systems in an unbiased way? How can we increase privacy? How can we increase data ownership? How can we increase sovereignty of our identity in the digital space? All of those kinds of things.
Yeah, and these are you know, very much goals and values that are of course broadly shared, I guess, by the global decentralized blockchain community. And as much as, you know, when you sort of, you know, I'm listening to you talking about these big goals, and they sound you know, immensely challenging, which of course they are, but at the same time, Aaron, I'm sure you'll agree that, you know, blockchain has come a long way in, you know, the 12 or 13 years or so, and we're really starting to see immense traction in all sorts of areas. Like, I guess I'm really thinking of what's happening in El Salvador at the moment, right? It's just incredible to see.
Yeah, no, I mean, absolutely astonishing that that happened. And it was always going, I think there's been kind of a bit of commentary around, you know, does it really matter who was El Salvador, all this kind of stuff. But change always happens from the edge. And you were never going to get a country that was doing well and has, you know, control over their currency and, you know, uses that for peddling influence in the global economy coming on board first. That was just never going to happen. It was always going to be a scrappy little nobody who took that first step. And, you know, no disrespect to El Salvador in that at all. I think they've been very brave, but that's, you know, everything starts with one step. And I'm very fascinated about how this plays out.
Yeah, and look, I completely agree with you, Aaron, in terms of it does have to be that scrappy little startup country, if you like, you know, the country that is able to move, because it's incredible how fast they are moving. They literally announced, the president of El Salvador said, I'm going to write this bill and then I'm going to pass it. And then, you know, literally days later, that has taken place. And I was in a Twitter Spaces last night.
Oh, yeah, I was there too.
Wasn't that an incredible experience? So it's just 20,000 people there listening to the bill being passed in the El Salvadorian parliament in real time, with all the sort of, you know, some of the, you know, the leading Bitcoiners all contributing ideas. Quite incredible.
Yeah, absolutely amazing. And, you know, and it'll be interesting to see what happens in the next 3 to 6 months. You know, if we get another nation taking this step, you know, even another little scrappy one, that is going to be, you know, 10 times more interesting than the first one, because you start to get into some momentum and some possible FOMO. And, you know, if we see a Bitcoin block forming in Latin America, that'd be huge. I mean, the economy there is the size of China, and it's, you know, it's a rapidly growing population and underserved in terms of financial services and access to capital. And so it'll be a very interesting thing to watch and play out and see how the different political fractions respond to that.
Absolutely. Couldn't agree more. I just think, you know, Bitcoin or crypto, if you like, it's the best show on earth. And if the mission is to unfuck the world, that's the way forward, right?
Yep, definitely. Yep.
All right. Hey, great stuff. Aaron, let's bring it back to you though, and centrality. I'd love to hear more about CENNZ, right then. So my understanding is this is within the centrality ecosystem, but that CENNZnet is a public blockchain network for dApps, and you've got a couple of different crypto assets on this blockchain. But yeah, well, you know more about this than me, obviously. So yeah, tell us about CENNZnet.
Yeah, cool. So I mentioned we have kind of a networks part in our business, and we have two public blockchain projects, and one of them is CENNZnet, the other one is PlugNet. CENNZnet is focused on that consumer adoption. That's really where it's been optimized for, and we've built the network with onboarding and making it simple and safe for users to use consumer dApps as our kind of core priority, and that has meant doing some things at the network layer that allow for that experience that you might be used to in a traditional app. You know, when you download Netflix, or your grandma loads Netflix, they don't know that there's a custom version of AWS's cloud environment sitting behind that that's hosting all of that experience. And they don't care, and they really shouldn't. They just get on there, start using it, and away they go. And when we tried to do that with some of the existing blockchains out there, it wasn't so easy because they hadn't been built with user experience in mind from the start. And so we kind of went down the path of saying, well, how do you start at first principles? What are those experience things? And then built those into the network. And how that turns up is, you know, the way that the network's put together is done to ensure that those processes are as smooth as possible from the user's point of view. An example of that is our fee economy, which is where CENNZ comes in. So we have two network tokens. One is the CENNZ token, which are used for staking and governance in the network. That's kind of the capital asset. And then we have CPay, which is the CentralPay token, and that's the gas token in the network. So why did we separate those things? Well, one of the big things around usability is, you know, predictability around fees. And if your capital asset is going up in value, which you want, then that means the fees to use the network also go up in value. It'd be like, you know, if Amazon's pricing went up for their cloud services, that went up for their stock price, not their cloud services, their stock price went up, then you'd start paying more for cloud services. That just doesn't make sense in a really kind of consumer-oriented world. And so the CentralPay token is designed to be minted and burned in a way that keeps the network fee stable and encourages more usage, so that your yield per CENNZ goes up, and therefore the value of CENNZ goes up. But the cost per usage event stays relatively flat. And so we've got, you know, things like that. We've got a fee token exchange built into the core of the network as well, so that if you've onboarded through an app's native token, you don't have to understand gas. You can automatically pay for transactions in the native token of that application. And so the user who comes into the ecosystem from an app doesn't have to learn about the network in order to use the network, which is kind of a big barrier for new users for adoption. So all these like kind of core things and the way the runtimes are constructed enable better user outcomes.
Yeah, and so you talk about the CENNZ token is used for staking and governance, which would tend to imply that this is a proof of stake blockchain, right?
Yeah, correct. Yeah. So it uses proof of stake, and it's built on Substrate. So it's compatible with the Polkadot ecosystem. So we've forked that the Substrate and added these unique runtimes and some of the some of the core network stuff has been modified a little bit to add in our donuts protocol, which is something the team came up with to allow applications, again, to have similar experience to what you would have in a normal cloud application. And what Donuts does is acts like a decentralized cookie. So it helps app developers create delegations and permissions that are quite layered and deep. And so you can do interesting things like allow this dApp to access this much money from my wallet for this period of time and then stop. So you can kind of start to build quite deep permissions into your applications, and that enhances both user safety as well as the user experience. You can have a single key that manages different permissions across different applications and different wallets. So you don't have to manage lots of different wallets with lots of different private keys and stuff like that.
Sure. And look, Aaron, it occurs to me that I'm sure you'll have some interesting perspectives on this, right? Because so one of the, I guess, the core tenets of blockchain is decentralization, right? And
Yep.
I think obviously that's particularly important with, Bitcoin, when you want to have that sort of, censorship resistance store of value. Blockchain, if you're going to kind of trust the Bitcoin network with, might be a significant portion of your net worth, for example, then that obviously needs to be decentralized and resistant from any kind of attack, right? But I think people are now understanding that, even in blockchain, not every blockchain needs to be, kind of state level attack proof. I think you know what I mean. So, put that into context and tell me, well, I'd love to hear kind of your thoughts on this, right?
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. And, if you approach this from a IT and networking background, you'll know that applications are built up from different kinds of infrastructure that fit for purpose for the type of task they're trying to do. And so even if you look at an app like Uber, behind the scenes, there are multiple clouds with multiple classes of servers doing, with different performance stats that are doing different functions, whether it's the payment function or it's the matching function or it's storing your identity and data. So this kind of idea that applications suck from multiple clouds with different levels of or different properties that are relative to the job they're trying to do is how technology actually works. The concept of having a universal infrastructure for every type of application is actually a fallacy. It makes no sense. So if you're, as you said, if you're trying to become a global state-resistant store of value, you want decentralization to be very high on your objectives, and that has some trade-offs around performance, for example. And so that's why Bitcoin has chosen the path that they have, and it's the right path to become that type of asset. And you might argue that reduces some functionality, but it means that it does what it's supposed to do very well. CENNZnet is taking a similar approach, which is how do we achieve enough decentralization for the task that we're trying to do? So the network is public, it's proof of stake, and the token holders control the stake in the network, so they manage its security, obviously. And the governance modules we're kind of progressively rolling out, so it'll be fully governed by the token holders. So there'll be a good degree of decentralization, but not to the extent perhaps that Bitcoin is, but at the same time, we get the performance benefits that we need to deliver those customer experiences.
Yeah, that's very well said, Aaron. Well, talk to me about some of these customer experiences then. I'd love to understand, I guess, some of the apps or the dApps that are being built in the ecosystem and some of the use cases. What's going on?
Yeah, so obviously because we're focused on that consumer space, we've been looking at applications that can initially help to onboard users into the ecosystem and then go deeper with those users. And the spearhead of that attack on the market, if you want to say, has been Silo. So Silo is a decentralized messaging and communications application. So you can think of it like WhatsApp or WeChat or Facebook Messenger, but all of the underlying mechanics about how the messages are set up, how your contacts are stored, how you connect to other people in the network, where your data is stored, what kind of data is stored, all of that stuff is done in a decentralized way. And so you can get all of the benefits that you get out of voice and video and calling from a normal application as a user, but with all of the benefits of privacy and sovereignty that you get from a blockchain. And so I think they're approaching something like 500,000 users now. And that's kind of like the spearhead of how you kind of onboard people and get them comfortable with managing their digital assets. The next stage from there is building in experiences in those user interfaces so that consumers can do something on the network. And so you have this kind of idea of mini applications like you would in a WeChat. And so once consumers are in the environment, they can start to interact with a whole bunch of different applications. One that's got a lot of focus at the moment from our side is the NFT space. Obviously, that's adjacent to consumers, and they kind of get what NFTs are a lot better than perhaps some of the DeFi applications, for example. And so building experiences around NFTs has been a real focus, and so that we can kind of take that next step from I'm on the network, I'm doing something that I'm familiar with, messaging, calling, and now I can take the next step into interacting with applications and assets. The other area that we're trying to do is create bridges between the Decentraland and the real physical world, because we're still actual physical humans. And so one of the rails we've built is the Centrality network, which allows people who build applications and have assets on the network to interact with physical point of sales or vending machines or parking machines. And so you can start to take experiences in the real world and connect those to your applications. And we've signed up pretty much every point of sale vendor and all the major e-commerce portals in New Zealand, so that they can natively integrate to CENNZnet and the assets and protocols on CENNZnet to kind of create that bridge between the real world. The other area that we're actually working with the Tekami team on is around digital identity. So, if you think of the infrastructure necessary to build applications, that's a core piece of it. How do we create the ability for users to have a seamless experience across a multiple group of different applications, either in the blockchain environment or connect them to experiences in the real world. And so building out digital identity and connecting that through to our single source platform, which is integrated with the passport databases and the driver's license databases and all those kinds of things, so that developers have this set of pipes that they can build a customer experience around. That's really where we've focused on the initial dApps and applications. Really, we've really kind of just kicked that journey of engaging with the broader community outside of our own venture ecosystem in the last few weeks. With a hackathon recently, we had 150 developers show up and build a whole bunch of different dApps, and so that starts to kind of really grow and expand what we're doing there.
Fantastic, Aaron. Well, it sounds like you and your team have got plenty of projects, both live and in development. But look, you've kind of hinted at some of these things already. But just to finish off this part of the podcast, just love to hear, I guess, anything else that is kind of taking up your mind space or your attention, or is on the immediate roadmap for Centrality. I guess, what do you want to kind of bring into life across the next 5 years or so?
Yeah, that's a really great question. So the near-term focus for us is building bridges to other networks, starting with Ethereum. So in the next quarter, our ETH bridge will go live. We've just launched the CENNZ decentralized exchange, AMM exchange on network, and so bringing a whole bunch more assets through that bridge into the network and allowing people to kind of hop between Ethereum and CENNZnet, kind of using it as a layer 2 for those, more friendlier consumer experiences. That's our kind of 3-month roadmap. Our 6-month roadmap is that full rollout of governance and handing over full control of the network to the community, as well as in that period launching a whole bunch more exciting new consumer experiences. I can't talk about them all now, but there's some pretty serious brands and names involved in building out on this infrastructure that we've created and starting to create either new entertainment experiences, new payment experiences, ways for people to interact with the technology that they might not have ever done before. So that's our kind of focus in the short to medium term. 5 years' time, unfuck the world. That's the goal.
Oh, that is fantastic. I love it. I love it. All right, let's unfuck the world. And in the meantime, though, let's just go to a quick 30-second break while we think of how we can unfuck the world. And then we will come back and finish off with the very famous Crypto Conversation hot take round.
Grow your wealth with the world's leading digital assets institution, Nexo. Earn up to 12% on your digital assets with Nexo's high yield savings account. Treat yourself, your crypto and fiat with the industry best crypto and fiat services featuring compounding interest paid out daily, 18 available cryptocurrencies, Bitcoin, Ethereum, Litecoin, stablecoins and more. 3 fiat currencies are accepted: Euro, Pounds and USD. Up to $375 million insurance on all custodial assets, top-ups and withdrawals available at any time, and 0 fees for using Nexo Earn Suite. Start earning at nexo.io. That's nexo.io.
All right, we're back, and I'm with Aaron McDonald. Aaron is the CEO of Centrality, Tech Ventures blockchain ecosystem based here in Auckland, New Zealand. And look, Aaron, I like to finish each Crypto Conversation podcast with a quick round of rapid-fire Crypto Conversation hot takes. Are you up for it?
Yeah, for sure. Let's go.
All right, I just want your hot takes, Aaron. Your hot fire, take your best shot. Here we go. Aaron, where do you sit on the Bitcoin maximalist to multi-coin opportunist spectrum?
I'm definitely not a maxi. I think that Bitcoin does a really great job of being a solve, but there are so many other applications for digital assets in the world that don't fit that model, that there's room for everyone, and we're not fighting each other, we're fighting the system.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Hard to argue with that, Aaron. Okay, well, what would you say is your firmest conviction, a crypto opinion?
Ooh, my firmest conviction, that's a really interesting one. I think that probably the most important thing for me is that we do this in a way that really does offer the opportunity for equality, that we don't get trapped in our own success and follow the same patterns that have been followed in the past, and that we truly strive to make this technology available and the wealth it can generate available to every single person.
Yeah, okay, well, interesting. And look, on a slightly similar note, Aaron, but a bit of a curveball if you want to think of it this way, UBI as a potential fix for AI-induced automation or some kind of dystopian wealth inequality in the future. UBI, is it a good idea or a bad idea?
I think it's an inevitable idea. On a long enough timescale, let's say, we're just not going to have to be the kind of labour force that we are today. My sense is, and if I was asked to what do you invest in the next phase of the future, I think you should invest in creativity, because that's one of the last things we'll automate out. So I think UBI is a necessary evil in a sense, but at the same time, it's inevitable that it will happen. We have to have some kind of economy. And we're not going to need the labour that we have today.
Yeah, very, very interesting, Aaron. I think I tend to agree, but well, let's bring it back to our old friend Bill Gates, who famously said that we tend to overestimate what we can accomplish in 2 years and underestimate what we can accomplish in 10. So look, I mean, whatever you like here, Aaron, you know, Centrality, crypto, DeFi, Bitcoin, blockchain in general, what does it look like in 10 years' time?
That's a really good question, and I'll back that up by saying that most people have a hard time understanding exponential things, and
yes,
and especially incumbents and, you know, the mainstream, they think that mass adoption is 50%. Actually, by the time you get to 5%, it's over. You just don't realize it.
Yes.
And so I think that we're very fast, you know, approaching that level, and it's inevitable that in that time scale, the way that our financial rails run, the way that we communicate each other, will have moved significantly towards this technology.
Yeah, I love that, and couldn't agree more. It's just Metcalfe's law. It's the power of networks. It's power of exponential growth, and once exponential growth is happening, you're exactly right. It's already over.
Yeah.
All right.
Totally.
On a similar but related note, and you'll be aware of this quote too, Aaron, because it comes from sci-fi author William Gibson, who said that the future is already here, it's just not evenly distributed. Can you think of an example, Aaron, of the future being here right now, but most people just aren't really aware of it?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think, you know, something like silos are a really good example. You know, people can now already take control of their data and have truly, you know, private networks of communication that are open source and available to anyone to participate in. And that's something that, you know, we couldn't have imagined 10 years ago. But exists today. So I think that's a really common thing, you know, simple thing for the average person to get their head around. These technologies do exist, and we can interact with all the things we would have to interact with in a banking sense. We can have these sovereign networks which we use to communicate with each other. We can protect our own data and our own privacy. Those aren't futuristic things anymore. Those are there today. If you want to go the next step, you know, something like the Neuralink, you know, that's going to be mind-bendingly fascinating to see how that plays out. You know, that's something that a lot of people wouldn't have imagined being possible, but is part of our reality right now.
Yeah, exactly right. And look, well, since you've brought it up, Neuralink, and what's your hot take on Mr. Elon Musk and his various endeavors?
I like, he's a differently abled mind, and, you know, you've got to accept that someone who's been able to do the things that he has done thinks about the universe, perceives the world, interacts with the world in a different space. I have a brother who's got a little bit of Asperger's, and, you know, I can identify a lot of the traits in the way Elon behaves because of that. I don't think we should take it too seriously, to be honest. You know, you look at what the guy does, not what he says, is probably the right way to do it.
Yep, that's a good summation, I think. So just enjoy Elon's tweets for what they are, and enjoy the comedic value. But
totally,
yeah, don't necessarily.
I do also think he's on a different plane. You know, he's a different plane to most people, and the things that might amuse him, you know, are not necessarily the things that amuse us. And because he has so much wealth, there is add that to the fact that he's, you know, socially disconnected because of his because of the way his mind works. If you put that together with the fact that he's extremely more powerful and extremely more wealthy than any of us could ever imagine, he just doesn't see the world the same way we do, you know. And we kind of have to take that for both sides, which is you've got the genius there, and all the positivity goes with it, but let's not hitch our bandwagon too strongly to someone who just isn't in the same realm of reality that we're in.
Nicely said again, Aaron. Okay, we're almost done here, but for now, it's time to get weird, time to zoom out. What do you see as the long-term future for the human race, Aaron? Do you see dystopia or utopia?
I think it's going to probably be more dystopia than utopia. I mean, we have to fight against that, but one thing that's difficult to fight against is human nature, and unfortunately, you know, from the very kind of cells in our body, we are selfish, and so that leads to, you know, more likely becoming a dystopian future. But let's fight hard to try and avoid it.
Yes, indeed. And the way we do that, of course, is by unfucking the world.
Exactly.
But let's close this out. Aaron, the final question in the Crypto Conversation Hot Take round is, what is your favorite science fiction book, film, show, or universe?
Oh, that's hard. I really like Altered Carbon. I think it's probably the closest thing to our, you know, mid to long term future that I've seen out there. It's got some really clever thinking about how the world evolves from where we are right now.
Okay, I'm not. Well, I need to ask then. So, what are just some of the one or two of the key themes that you think point to where we're going?
So, in Altered Carbon, which is on Netflix, if you want to watch it, the story is centered around the idea that humans are essentially a chip. Their soul and their memories exist on a chip, and that chip can be inserted into different meat sacks. And so that gives us the ability to live for a long time. It gives us the ability to teleport ourselves between worlds by sending the data between worlds. And so this idea of this human augmented experience and how that flows into the way the economy works and the social structure works and government works, the value of life, all of those kinds of things, is very interesting.
Yeah, I agree. That sounds, I think that's exactly where the world is going. So
yeah.
Altered Carbon, I'm going to watch that. I'll put that on my list, Aaron. Hey, this has been a lot of fun. I've enjoyed having you on the show today. Aaron, thank you for coming on. There's nothing else really to say except hand the microphone back to you and tell the listeners, tell the people where they can go to find you on your various platforms and where they should go to learn more about Centrality and what you guys are building.
Yeah, so if you want to follow me, jump on Twitter. I'm at AaronMCDNZ. And if you want to know more about Centrality, then just jump on to www.centrality.ai.
Fantastic. All the best, Aaron. We'll do this again sometime, but thanks for coming on, and bye for now.
Cheers. Thanks for your time, Andy.
All right, there you go. That was Aaron McDonald from Centrality. And look, always cool to talk to a fellow Kiwi, a fellow New Zealander. And funnily enough, if you are listening to this podcast from New Zealand, or you're in more specifically Auckland, if you're in Auckland, just want to let you know that a buddy of mine has put together a night out. It's kind of like it's like a cross between a DJ night out and a crypto meetup. It's at a bar called the Fitzroy, which is in Grey Lynn, and this is happening on Thursday, the 24th of June. So it's about 2 weeks away, from about 5 o'clock in the afternoon till late. But myself and a couple of buddies, we're going to be DJing. So I used to be a DJ back in the day, so I've got a whole bunch of records, and so we're kind of reliving our lost youth and going to be playing various flavors of house music from our vinyl collections. And I believe you'll be able to buy drinks using crypto, which is cool. So yeah, as I say, it's called On the Record. It's at the Fitzroy in Grey Lynn, Thursday, 24th of June. Part crypto meetup. There'll be a lot of crypto people there, and we're going to be playing some music, so it should be a lot of fun. Would love to see you there. Please do come say hi. All right, well, Thank you very much for listening, team. Don't forget to subscribe to the Crypto Conversation podcast and whatever podcast app you are using. Give us a nice review in Apple iTunes or the Apple Podcasts app. Just give us 5 stars, even easier. Always appreciate that. But thank you very much for listening. That's us for today. See you real soon. This was the Crypto Conversation for Brave New Coin. See ya.